The Virtual CFO Service Playbook online course is designed to teach CPA firm owners how to build and scale virtual CFO services, drawing from the experiences, insights, and expertise of the team at Summit CPA Group, the leading provider of VCFO services for creative agencies. This online course dives deep into a series of modules that, when applied simultaneously, will equip you with the essential tools for creating and delivering scalable virtual CFO services.
Profit-focused accounting, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and that's definitely the case here. I want to tell you the things I didn't want to do when I started the business and things that I did, and that might make it clear and help you visualize, where we came from and where we're going, and what these modules are all about. It's starting with the things we didn't want to do. I didn't want to wear a suit. Back then in 2004, it was almost a requirement to have a suit, suspenders, maybe a really cool tie, all the cool stuff. But I didn't want to do that. When working in the private industry, I worked there for a couple of years, and we made fun of the people that came in with suits. We did. We called them the suits. And it was like they were the only ones wearing suits. They weren't like us. They were completely different. And I didn't want to be that person. Another thing is I didn't want to work hourly. That was a big thing that, a lot of CPA firms, unfortunately, they work a ton and they bill everything hourly. And the big thing was is that, the reason I noticed that is when I did work for public, it seemed like I onboarded a ton of new clients. And with that, I would meet with them quite often in that first 30 days. They'd call me all the time about the smallest thing to figure out, and we'd help them out, and everything was great. And then all of a sudden they quit calling. And then it wasn't until tax season they'd come back in, bring their stuff in, and their stuff was a disaster. And it was one of those things that's like, man, why did you guys call? And it's like, it just dawned on me, they called because they got the first bill. And they got the first bill and realized that every time they asked a question, they were on the clock. And that was really, that was completely contrary to the way that we wanted to do things. It wasn't going to fit into our model. So hourly billing was completely out of the picture. Another thing we didn't want to do is that we didn't want to work a bazillion hours. Historically, accountants work a ton of hours, especially during tax season, where it's very common, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I did it for 3 years, hated it. Got sick all the time because of it. It was one of those things I always came down with strep throat during that time frame because I was just working so many hours. I didn't want our team to do that. I didn't want to do it myself. And that was something that I had to figure out how to work things around so that that wouldn't happen. And the biggest thing is I didn't want to fail. Failing was really out of the question. Failing was something that there's no way I could do. I had a family, I had a wife, kids. It was just something that it just wasn't, it wasn't going to happen. So what did I want to do? Well, I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to get out there and build something bigger than us. That's why the name Summit CPA Group isn't Jody Grundon CPA or Grundon and Hale or Hale and Grundon. It doesn't have our name in there. It's Summit CPA. It's a bigger than us vision. And we started out, Summit CPA Group, we started out with just two people, two CPAs, and we were Summit CPA Group. Then we built in and added to that. And eventually now we're up to 50, 55 people. So again, bigger than us, something that I can move out and it's not tied to me. Again, through the marketing and through everything else. I wanted to build a team. I just didn't want it to be a two-person shop. A lot of people like that, and that's fine. That's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to work. I wanted to actually build something again, a company, something bigger than us, have a team of individuals, great individuals, people that I'd be proud to be a part of. And that was hugely important. Wanted to dress like our customers. As I mentioned before, I wear Hawaiian shirts all the time, and I truly do. And I just feel comfortable around the customers. I don't have to have a suit and tie. I can be myself. And that was huge and a big part of it. I wanted to feel like I come to work. It wasn't a burden. And that was a big part of the, going virtual. No more driving to work, no more commuting. I wanted to do something again different in a lot of different ways there. I wanted to change the way that accountants bill in general. Initially we had to start out with hourly bill because we didn't know anything else. And immediately it was like, okay, so how can we change this? And so we went to a flat fee billing structure. And so the big thing went to flat fee because we didn't want people dodging our phone calls. We were going to set up something completely different, something that was so out of the ordinary from an accountant on a consultative method that we wanted to make sure that people showed up for the meeting there, and the bill wasn't the reason why they didn't show up because they're too embarrassed. That was a huge part of what we wanted to do. We wanted to change the value proposition that we deliver to our clients. We wanted it to be more than just, something that, a simple tax return or a simple audit or doing, bookkeeping, something that we, didn't really bring a ton of value. We wanted to do something a little more of that and bring value. And that's where the virtual CFO service came about. And we wanted to be a partner, not a vendor. We wanted our clients to think of us as part of the team, not just a simple vendor they're writing a check to. And that's all part of our billing, how we bill on a weekly basis, a similar structure that you'd actually pay an employee. And we wanted that relationship to be that strong. And we find that I'd say 99% of our clients think of us as that partner and not a vendor. The other thing was we talk about repeatable processes. We felt that was extremely important, and that's what profit-focused accounting is really all about. It's about delivering those repeatable processes to the client so that every single person on our team, every virtual CFO is presenting a similar, not exact, but a similar presentation to the clients. We're always talking about cash, how much cash do they have in the bank? We're always talking about production metrics and how they impact how we forecast. We always talk about the financial metrics, and the financial metrics is everything in line? So do we have the right net income, the right gross profit, something off that we need to actually address? And then of course we wrap things up with the pipeline metrics and showing, how much do we have, that are yet out there to be, converted to a client? Do we have enough in order to basically fulfill our forecast? So those are the four areas that everything that we do is wrapped around, and we'll talk about our meetings in that fashion, and then we even break it out as the KPIs on the metrics for their dashboarding. Hugely important. Everything we talk about is in profit focused accounting. So everything that we've discussed, it has to be a repeatable process. Michael Gerber is the founder of this, in my opinion. Great book called E-Myth Revisited. Very first book I read. Gave it to Adam when we first started off and said, hey, this is going to be us. We're going to develop a process. We're going to develop a company that we can at one day step away from client-facing work and actually run a company. And we've done that, which is great. Neither one of us work on clients more than maybe 10 hours a month, not significant. And those clients are typically clients like most of them are relatives of mine or friends in high school, that type of thing. We don't pick up, we don't work on any new clients. 100% of what we do is working on the business. Extremely, extremely important. And I always get the question on why are you opening up your playbook, for everybody to see? Shouldn't that be more guarded? And I truly believe that competitiveness drives excellence. The more that we can teach everybody in here to be, to deliver solid CFO services, make a profit, 75% gross profit on, have the clients just love you working with you, and the relationships are really developing a strong relationship with everybody. The more and more and more we do that, the more it's going to drive excellence in everything we do. It's going to force us to be better than what we currently are, and that's the key there. So there's a selfish reason behind that, and that's that's the reason. The competitiveness drives excellence. I truly believe that, and I hope you get that out of these modules. Thank you very much.
So basically, we founded Summit CPA back in 2002. Adam and I left another firm, and from there started our own practice up. We wanted to do something a little different, something that nobody really had done before. But in the same point, we obviously wanted to make a good living doing so.
And those first few years were rough. I mean, Jody had really, and I got to give him credit. I mean, he really had no business hiring me for those first couple of years. There was enough work for him, not for both of us. But even in the name of Summit CPA, rather than naming it after himself or ourselves, he had the vision to make it bigger than himself by naming it Summit CPA, and he focused on the marketing side and the process side, as I did a lot of the delivery work. And it was a really good team, and we worked tons of hours those first 2, 3, 4 years just trying to figure out our process and how we wanted to do things. We messed up billing like nobody's business. We did fixed fee billing right away just because we had to, because we were trying to get cash in the door, and we just underpriced things. We over delivered.
I mean, I could go through roadblock after roadblock because we've had many, many hurdles that we've had to come, over time. The biggest one is when we went to value-based pricing. We really didn't know how to do it, and we just kind of took it out there. We wanted to create that flat fee, and we guessed wrong completely on how profitable we needed to be, what that fee should have been, and it almost put us out of business. So it was really tough in the very beginning, cash flow-wise, to run and operate the business.
When we first started offering VCFO services, it was more out of necessity. It just kind of evolved. I mean, it wasn't like one of these things where we just turned around and said, hey, today we're going to start delivering VCFO services. There was this evolution from us taking our tax clients and just wanting to avoid a busy season. We just didn't want to have to deal with doing all that work in a compressed time frame. So we spread that work out by working with the client on a monthly basis. And then unknowingly, we started giving away a lot of great advice and having some really good conversations with the client. So when we formalized it, it was almost more of a marketing thing initially. We're like, hey, wait a minute, we're actually doing this, and we need to really think about what we're doing and put it on paper, how we're going to deliver it and do those kind of things. So I was pretty excited that we finally got, we finally were able to take what we were actually doing and think very thoughtfully about how to package it and how to promote it and sell it.
So when we first started offering virtual CFO services back in 2004, we started the firm in 2002. We were pretty traditional in the first 2 years because it just had to be in order to get things going. We worked a bazillion hours, really tried to get to build the client base. And then once we got to a point, we thought, you know what, hey, I think we were close to maybe $400,000 a year in revenue. We thought, hey, I think we can provide a better service for our clients, and I think we can actually level out what we have, revenue-wise, as well as our accounts receivable could go down if we really offered something that was repeatable. And so we were looking for that repeatable service that we could offer. And tax returns are repeatable, yeah, once a year, but you work a bazillion hours in tax season, and I couldn't do that because I was a hockey coach. So it was one of those deals you just couldn't do it. And so with the virtual CFO service, I thought, you know what, hey, let's do a consulting service where we can actually meet with the clients on a monthly basis, go over all their stuff, and help them look forward instead of look backward. Not just go over the financial statements, but really kind of create something that they can look forward to meeting with us with. And we started doing that, and clients loved it. First of all, we were really hitting on the cash flow management. We're like, hey, this is your 18-week outlook, 16-week outlook, month outlook, whatever the next period outlook was. We always made the cash flow to that period. So in the case it was a month, it was always at least 4 weeks, if not 8 weeks, maybe even 12 weeks. And they just loved it. They loved it, and they wanted more of it. And so we're like, well, hey, how can we actually make this a more consultative, type of engagement? We thought, well, let's go long term. Let's go more long term. And let's really kind of build some forecasts, and forecasts that we can talk to the client, and we can kind of make it a working meeting in which we can kind of do a lot of modeling for the client and really help them make better decisions. And we did that, and clients loved it even more. And so the more they loved it, the more it became, wow, this is something that we could really do well at. And so clients started referring clients to us. And so we started picking up clients just because of the level of service we were. And instead of meeting on a monthly basis, they wanted to meet more frequently. So it wasn't because we just miraculously decided to meet with clients on a weekly basis. They requested it. And so it was one of those things like, okay, yeah, we could definitely meet weekly. And so we started charging weekly instead of monthly. We started meeting with them weekly. We started breaking up what we talked about, during those meetings, and which we're going to talk about throughout the seminar, which made it really, really nice. And again, it became more of a consultative thing. And we became really good friends with our clients because we're meeting with them all the time. We became part of their team, a partner versus a vendor relationship. And it was really huge. And it just kept growing and growing and growing until eventually we actually discovered our niche. And once we discovered our niche, it just blew up. Going from picking up 4 clients a year to, basically, right now we're picking up between 2 to 6 clients a month.
So I think the biggest roadblock in any team, in any company, and Summit is no different, is accepting change and leading change and innovating and not being okay with the status quo. I think if I had to speak in general terms, I think accountants probably love very stable environments that are not really innovative. And that is very different from Summit's model and what we've embraced. And, we tend to find those things where we just get really comfortable and stagnant and we don't see growth anymore. And so I think pushing through that, we went through a big reorganization on our team. We've added new disciplines, new practices to what we do as a firm. And so I think leading through that change was difficult. And, the roadblocks are just that all of us don't really like change unless we're the ones leading it. So, making sure that we've got buy-in to that, people can see what's on the other side of that, the creativity that comes, in the change curve. And I think even part of that is, like now all of our CFOs have this guy who's like listening to client calls and coaching them and helping them lead better. So being open to that, I think is, has been a big accomplishment on our team side. And hopefully, we're all better consultants because we're being more collaborative. We're listening to feedback. We're open to growing and leaning into our strengths.
Then the other thing is that, how do we delegate responsibility? Because a lot of times as accountants, we want to hoard responsibility, and we got caught doing that at the very beginning. And it was really important for us to be able to figure out ways to delegate our responsibilities and not abdicate it, not give to somebody and then walk away, but delegate it so we can look over it and make sure it's done properly. And that was a key to our success. And then to be able to teach other teammates how to actually do it was huge, because not everybody, like I said, can handle that, and accountants tendencies want to hoard, and so hiring the right people is important.
The biggest accomplishment at Summit CPA has been the team. But that's probably what I'm most proud of, is that when Jody and I very first began, of course, it was just the two of us, and we hired people along the way, but I think that over the last few years especially, we've made a pretty deliberate effort to relinquish control and really empower and collaborate with our team and to give them the freedom to grow both personally and professionally. We brought in resources to help them do both of those things as well. So I'm really proud of the team that we've surrounded ourselves with and our ability to hopefully help them in their journey and through their career at Summit and afterwards.
To hear delivering virtual CFO services, I think many people have in their mind what that would look like. And I think the reason they're taking the course is they might not know how to go about and do it. So over a long period of time, they're going to both hear this story about Summit and what we've done, so you can see a model that's being delivered one way. And then we've thought of a specific workbook that we think if people do it, they'll take them through the steps of thinking of their own practice and how they could implement this. So the goal is, as you come out the end, you would actually be ready to deliver those things to other clients. I'm hoping that's different than other classes that might just say, we'll give you some information, but then completely leave you on your own to decide if you're going to use it. So what I really hope people get out of this is that they take the time when we say, please stop and do this exercise, to really do the exercise and go through and not assume that they'll have time once they get done with the class to go back through the entire thing again. Each of the exercises is going to build on itself. And so having put a lot of thought into one early on, that'll be a good example to say, okay, pick up that example and develop it further. And so that's my hope, is that someone who really wants to do this gets done with the class and says, I really know how I'm going to put this into practice, and I'm well prepared to go ahead and start.
I've been talking with people in our CFO community, and I think that what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that they are either providing virtual CFO services or they want to be, and they don't know how to get out of the bookkeeping, the work and into the advisory role. So, I think that what people are going to experience going through this training program is understanding how to see yourself as a higher level advisor and not the bookkeeper, how to see yourself as a maybe reviewer of the work, not the doer of the work. It's what we often will say is, be a reviewer, not a doer, when you're higher level. And so I think some of it is getting your mindset in the right place in order to provide higher level services for your clients. So I think everything in the training program will cover, just all of those things that people will need to learn and practice in order to get that mindset and to see themselves as the CFO that can help these companies, and not just the bookkeeper doing the accounting behind the scenes, but a more integral role within the companies that they work for.
So I think in the current climate that we have right now, with all the changes that are are happening because of COVID and even just some of the economic disruptions, the ability to be able to scale your workforce to work from home is just so critical. And it definitely is kind of a complex question. There's a lot of things to consider, especially when you're talking about a CPA firm. You have to look at the security of information. The communication has to be really, really consistent and clear between your team members to make sure that your clients get what they need. And I really feel like Summit has a great playbook for that. It was such a great experience coming on as a new employee with Summit and seeing the deck of tools and the processes and the company culture that they have that just really fosters that environment of connection and high performance and just being really efficient and effective and holding each other accountable in a really, really positive and clear way. So I know that the attendees are probably going to get a lot of those same things out of the modules, and I'm excited to see it all when it's completed.
First, from my perspective, which as director of technology, I'm a little biased, but I think a really awesome tech stack is one of the big items that somebody will get out of this program. Even if it's not necessarily using 100% of the products that we use, I think understanding how they can be utilized and then being able to research and find other solutions that might fit a little bit better for the mold that they're looking for. So, there's thousands of different solutions out there, and everyone's take on them is a little bit different. But understanding, what the general need of it is and how it's being utilized, I think is one big area. And then I think just second, I think is just figuring out how to grow your relationship with the clients that you work with. I think naturally moving from traditionally what would be a tax centric, maybe at the most quarterly touch aspect with the clients and businesses that you work with, to moving to as much as weekly or even more than maybe two times a week, talking with somebody, being able to grow those relationships with the people that you're working with.
So in my own words, I think what everybody enrolled in this program is going to get is the knowledge that Jody and Adam have shared and grown over the years. And so the one thing that's really great about Summit is we've never been afraid to make mistakes. So I always tell this story because it's an example of what it's like to work at Summit. I was on my first client call. So it was the first time I was joining a client call, and Jody and Adam were introducing me to a brand new client, and we're doing our little kickoff call with them. And the client introduces this software. People probably heard of it by now, but it's called Trello. And Trello is a software that is a project managing software, but it's very, very flexible project managing software. And so they're talking about Trello. They're talking about how great it is. They spent probably 5 minutes just walking us through how cool it is. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That sounds like a really strong, good software that might be helpful for us. And we walk out of that meeting, and I call it a night. I go up and eat dinner, and then the next morning I go to work, and there's an email from Jody out saying, going forward, we're using Trello for all of our project management. Like, just basically this email explaining how we're going to use Trello and why it's going to work and how we're going to use it. And like the fact that we went from a meeting that night to the next day making it mandatory use at Summit just shows you how fast we pulled the trigger on things. So I think the fact that we are willing to try stuff. And then, we did use Trello for probably a year and a half, 2 years. And then we found enough weaknesses in it where we moved on to something else. And so, we're always willing to try something new and really see if it works and take those advantages and take those pluses and minuses and then find what we need. And so that's what you're going to get out of this program, is you're going to learn from our mistakes, because we move so quickly. We've learned from our mistakes. And so we're going to tell you about those mistakes. And that happens. That's just one technology issue that happens in everything we do. I know I just recorded a module for onboarding yesterday, and our onboarding process in the 4 years I've changed here, I feel like it changes every 3 months because we're always trying to make it better. We're always trying to improve it. So you're going to learn from our mistakes.
My hope is that enrollees in this program feel like they have enough meat on the bones in what we've delivered to kind of learn from what we've done and how we've done it, and maybe not necessarily take 100% of everything we say at face value, because we certainly don't. Like I said, we've been influenced by so many books over the years and so many different ways of doing things. But I'm hoping that I think out in the marketplace, there's a lot of why around what we should be doing as VCFOs and why we should be doing it in the firm of the future. But there's really not a whole lot out there on how to do it. And my hope is that Anybody watching these videos feels empowered to be able to start and know how to deliver it. Learn from our mistakes on pricing and selling and delivery and meetings and how we've set all that stuff up. Of course, customize it for themselves, but I'm hoping that they at least feel like they have the foundation to get started and really launch VCFO services for themselves.
What I hope enrollees get out of this program is the confidence that they too can do exactly this. A lot of times there's that fear of the unknown. And with that, the cool thing about it is that we've already went through the unknown. We figured it out already. We know that, hey, here are the that you want to avoid, the pitfalls you want to step into. That we're kind of putting out the blueprint there for everybody to come along with us and to help us out. And again, the more that we have in this space, the more the more that it's going to be there for us. The more quality everything that develops. The better things get, because we're going to have competition, because competition breeds quality. And again, that's the big thing. So we're going to open our books up for the entire world to see, which is kind of cool, kind of scary in a lot of sense. But I think it's going to really pay dividends. Not for just us, but I think it's going to pay dividends for accounting in general, and for those that really take the initiative and really put this into action.
Thanks for watching this module video of the Virtual CFO Playbook. We hope you learned something new. Be sure to share your thoughts or questions on this module in the CFO Slack community.